Let's discuss the concept of hydrostatic force acting on a submerged body by considering a submerged car. Assume a car plunges into a pond after driving off the road and settles at the bottom on its wheels. Will the occupant of the car be able to open the door? Well, that really depends on how strong he is. For now, let's understand how to calculate the minimum force the occupant needs to apply in order to get out. In order to open the door, the occupant must apply a force larger than the hydrostatic force acting on the door at the pressure center. So what is hydrostatic force? It is the product of the average pressure acting on the door and the area of the door. The average pressure on the door is the pressure value at the centroid of the door. It is the product of density, acceleration due to gravity, and the height between the centroid of the door and the surface of the pond. The resultant hydrostatic force on the door acts on the pressure center, which in this case is directly under the midpoint of the door. Let's look at some different scenarios. What if the car did not reach the bottom of the pond, but instead it landed on the surface of a rock? Will it be easier for the occupant to open the door in this case? Remember, the average pressure decreases as the height between the centroid of the door and the surface of the pond decreases. This results in a decrease in the force that has to be exerted by the occupant, making it easier for him to open the door at that height. Let's now imagine the pond is full of seawater, which is denser than fresh water. How do you think this variation in density affects the ability of the occupant to open the door? You probably guessed right. As the density of the liquid increases, the average pressure also increases. This results in an increase in the force required to open the door. Let's look at one last scenario. How does it help if the occupant decides to roll down the window? Rolling down the window decreases the area of the door affected by hydrostatic force. This in turn decreases the overall hydrostatic force acting on the door. This might just be the best course of action for the occupant. By rolling down the window and letting the inside of the car fill up with water as much as possible, the occupant is essentially equalizing the hydrostatic force acting on both sides of the door, effectively negating the effect of the hydrostatic force. The occupant should now be able to open the door underwater almost as easily as opening it on land.